Hi, and welcome to part 7 of the Let's Build a Chatbot in C# using Agent Framework. We're still in Blazor server, and before we go on to having other backends and frontends, I want to add a little more features so we feel like the baseline is more feature complete. And that is, in this case, image generation. So we want to be able to generate images on top of being able to just talk with a chatbot, just like we can do in ChatGPT. So before we jump into the code, let me quickly show it to you. So we can just say hi like we normally do. And I will move this breakpoint while we wait, and then we'll go into it. And that just answers back like normal, what a ChatGPT will also do. But the second we begin to ask something about generating images, generate an image of a cute dog. It now says generating images here. And while it does that, generating images takes quite a while. So at some point in this video, I also mentioned that I stopped the recording and restarted again, so you don't need to sit and wait for these images. But while we wait for the image, there's two ways of doing images. This is the way that ChatGPT does it, but it's kind of limiting because this is a general mode we go into right now. And we're using a small agent up front to figure out if we want to go into image generation mode, or we want to actually just let our chatbot have a tool that can generate images. So I built in an option where we can switch between these two, and we're going to go through the router agent first, because it's probably the one you would do, but the other one have some neat features as well, and actually also a bug I found in Agent Framework that I need to create. But we got a cute dog. That's nice. So let's see how this is done behind the scenes. And the best way to do that is if we go in and set a breakpoint in our send async. And then we go in and say generate an image of cozy house on a hill. So we get our input, that's okay. We get our setup of the missing title. I've moved this up a bit so it happens before we figure out if we want to go into one of the other modes, because no matter what, we need to generate a title, so that's okay. And we put the message into the GUI so we can see it. And then I'm taking the image gen style here, and right now we are hitting the router agent. So we are essentially making one more agent, one for title, one for agent, and one for chatbot. But here we are just making a small GPT-5 mini and asking it should determine if we are in image mode or if we are in chatbot mode, meaning if we say hi, we should be in chatbot mode. If we have an image, generate image of something, we should be in image generation mode. And we do that using just a normal structured output of something I call task type, where we have the two different routes, as they're called here. And in this case, since we said generate image of a, what was it? Of a cozy hill, house on a hill, we can see that we end up in the task where it's generate image. Had it been the other one, I've just extracted the normal content from previous videos in here, where we do the agent and do the streaming or non-streaming. But in this case, we're not even gonna do any chat bubbles back or anything. We're just doing the images. And the way we do that is we first have a new Boolean that keeps track of if we are in image generation mode right now. So that means now we can't see it, but it will say generate image as you saw before. And in here, it will now show us that we need to do a prompt, But image generation doesn't do a prompt in that it can take multiple chat messages in from user, assistant, so on. So I'm actually building that up on the fly here using just a small for each loop, because I want to give the full context. So we can, in this case, just one message. But if I later said, no, make it summertime or make it winter time, and then it will be able to understand that it still generate an image, but it's just with a different tweak to the image generation. Here I have a small image generation tool. I put it out as a tool here itself, where we call it manually here, but later on we will see that the agent itself can also call this tool, and we're giving in the prompt. So we have our prompt, and with our agent factory that we normally make the agents from, we can get the connection and the raw client. So we can get the Azure OpenAI client here, because Agent Framework itself can't do anything with images. We need to use the raw image client from OpenAI or Azure OpenAI. And then we're just saying generate image async. There is various other options you can set on generate image, but we have covered that in other videos. But we're just saying make this house. So it will do work on that right now. And I will pause the video until it comes back. And we're back. It took 52 seconds in order to do it. But we now have our image in this as a binary PNG. And what we do with that PNG, because we need to show it in a browser, we put it in the www route of the Blazor. So we generate that folder, and we just generate a random PNG file name with a GUID. Then we take our stream of our image byte and essentially make the file. So we do that, and then we add to our conversation a new message saying that we have a message that is just called image part, because these images are not really stored anywhere in our normal conversation, but because we have a custom conversation where we previously put in the usage, we can now also just put an image part in. So that was nice doing that instead of the agent sessions. So we do that, and we just say image generated, which we don't use here. And we are essentially done. And we can go back and see that we got a cozy house on a hill. And now we could do follow-up prompts. Make it winter time. Run it again exactly the same. It's generating image. I will pause, and I will let you see the result. And we're back. We got a winter house instead. So again, follow-up prompts can be seen because we give the entire context as a generate route. So this is how ChatGPT roughly do it, but I kind of feel that it has a little limitation, because we also in this chatbot have a tool called Get Weather. So what if I wanted to say generate an image of how the weather is in Paris? That would not work, because it would either go into image mode and not be able to call the tool, or it would go into the tool mode or the chatbot mode, call the tool, but don't have any access to images. So for that reason, I have put in that we can do it in a different way. So we can go in and use ImageGen as tool. And code-wise, the only thing that is really different is that now we go into this one where we just use the chatbot like normal. So now we're not having an upfront agent. That is kind of good because it takes up time. But when we do this, if you look at ChatGPT, whenever it creates images and you say create image, it would normally just create the image for you and nothing more. If we do it like this, it will always both create the image because that's the result of the tool, but it will also come back with a message saying, I've created the image, blah, blah, blah. So that's the drawback of doing it this way, and apparently OpenAI likes the other way best, but let's just see how it's done. So the only thing we need to do is essentially we need to new up a tool. And we need to new it up every single time because we want to give the entire conversation. So when we do the tool, we can add the extra message in. We could also have begun to work with the agent and doing middleware and doing it before and after the call itself, but this is just the easier way. But as we have seen this code already, it's just the same code, now just being prompted by the LLM. So we can go in and do the normal things. So we can just say create an image of an apple. So now it will do a tool call with a create image, and you can see it turned it out based on this to choose itself what the prompt should be. So that could also be some value of it if you have some instructions on always being a photorealistic cartoon or something like that. But it can also send it off in a different direction based on what you wrote. But now it's doing a tool call, doing exactly the same thing. I will again post. No, it's actually finished, so that's good. So it came back, but you can see we get this back as well, which is kind of good, kind of annoying, depending on what you like in the way. Apparently OpenAI didn't like this, so they didn't implement it this way. We could again go in and say from the old videos, what is the weather like in Paris? Now we're not doing images because it has nothing to do with images, so it calls the weather. And we'll just go back with that. But then we can of course go in and say generate an image of Paris in that weather. And had the weather been rain, it should make an image of Paris in rain, but now we can see it says it needs to be in a very hot weather, and so on and so forth. So that is good, of course, that we can just get the entire prompt. And while we wait for this, I wanted to make it so I could say the following prompt. We'll send it a little while. Generate an image of how the weather is in Paris right now. And it sort of works, and then it totally breaks down. And we'll see why in 1 second. But I will pause the video for the image to... Oh, there it is. So it showed an image. It's sunny. It has the hot glow and so on. That makes total sense that it did that. And had we had some other weather, it would have given something else. But let's see what happens when I give this prompt where we actually try and change the two tools, the weather tool and the image tool. Because when we send it, it looks like it's actually doing it quite all right. So it's calling the weather. It's figuring out that it's hot, still is. And then it, based on that, make a second tool call. But I have had problems that it seems like it messes up either in the LLM or in Agent Framework. I need to make a bug report for this after this video, but I just wanted to show it. It might work when you see this video, or it might be a limitation and perhaps be why ChatGPT have not implemented it this way. But and it might also have gone away now. These services can be a bit temperamental, of course. Let's see what's happens. So the tool is definitely being called, and I know it's generating the image right now, and it will actually also show the image. And then we get this. We get an invalid request error. No tool called found for function call output with call ID, and then the latest call ID. I tried this both with streaming, non-streaming. I've tried it with a bigger model, but it seems like something goes wrong for some reason. Perhaps because we make a different kind of call to a different kind of service. It might be a bug. Because if we go in and begin to look at these updates behind the scenes and find the tools and stuff, the tools are there, but they just say it doesn't exist. And there is some internal guards in Agent Framework, so I think it will be Agent Framework problem here, that something is being checked in an incorrect manner, where they always want to have a tool request and a tool response. A tool request and a tool response. And this error message is essentially saying that no tool found for function call output with call ID. That. So it says it has an output, but it couldn't find the request itself. Again, I will log it, but just be aware that that might be a problem if you're doing this just after the video has been done. Because behind the scene, we can see it actually made it, showed everything and so on. But then it's just the final message back from the agent that fails because the guards inside Agent Framework fails with that. But beyond that, get rid of the exception and reload here. But beyond that, we can now see that there's nothing much to it. We make a tool that we had down here. And that tool can either be called using as a normal tool. Then it's just LLM choosing when to make images, when to do not. As long as we don't do multi-tools at the same time, it seems to work. Or we can do as ChatGPT chose, in that we can put up a agent upfront that checks, are we in image generation mode or are we in chat mode at the moment. That is actually everything for this video. Next time we will do a little more features for Blazor server, and then we will continue on. So see you in the next one.